Taking one look at Reaver, it's very easy to see what this game's inspirations are, and it's even easier to come right out and say that this game is just a rip-off of ULTRAKILL. But I urge you not to come to that lazy conclusion and give Reaver a fair shake of the old sauce bottle, because at the end of the day, Reaver is entirely its own game, and it can hold its ground against some of the bigwigs in the genre. Now, that's not me saying that Reaver doesn't share similarities with ULTRAKILL. Of course it does. For example, I think the revolver models could be changed a little bit. I think the way the blood splatters is a little bit too similar, as well as the way the enemies spawn in. It'd be extremely disingenuous for me to deny these similarities, but when comparing the games side by side, the differences are very clear and the similarities are far and few between. They both have their own aesthetic, gameplay speed and mechanics, difficulty curves, music, lore, enemy variation, and weapon variety. To say that Reaver is just ULTRAKILL from Wish or something stupid is as disingenuous as denying their similarities. And why is it that when we have games like Lies of P, for example, that take very clear inspiration from Dark Souls, with Souls-like even becoming its own subgenre of video games, that we praise it for being a good Souls-like game, instead of immediately calling it out for being a quote-unquote rip-off? Most of these Souls-like games just about change the bare minimum, sometimes sporting the same UI and gameplay mechanics and gameplay loop. Yet, like I said, we praise that about them. But no, when it comes to ULTRAKILL, the best and only FPS game ever made, every game that takes inspiration from it is instantly branded a ripoff without any chance of proving you wrong. Now, I fully understand that the majority of the ULTRAKILL community aren't stuck up, pretentious assholes, but the very vocal minority of the group seem to not understand the very game they're defending sometimes. I've had comments under a video about Cultic, the game that's very clearly inspired by Blood and even Resident Evil to a certain degree, saying that it's a rip-off of ULTRAKILL. I don't know how much brain rot you need to have in order to think that, but holy shit. I've had the same comments under videos about Severed Steel, Proteus, Trepang 2, Vampire Hunters, Supplice, yada yada yada. It must be extremely draining to think that every game with retro graphics or advanced movement is just an ULTRAKILL ripoff. Fuck man, we might as well loop back around and say that every game is a ripoff of Doom at this point. Anyway, with all that negative shit out of the way, let's take a quick look at Reaver, shall we?
Lord have mercy. We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
Now, Reaver hasn't changed a whole lot from its demo version. It's essentially the same game, but with more levels and weapons. It's released into early access, so you can expect the other campaign levels and weapons to be added in the future, but for the most part, if you enjoyed the demo, then you'll be right at home here in the early access release, as it saved your progress and transferred it over. Reaver truly shines in its gameplay. The single most important thing that you should have in an FPS, in my opinion, is to make sure that you have perfected the movement and gunplay.
Well, duh.
There should be this harmonious synergy between how the guns work and feel, in contrast to the speed and the fluidity of the movement. One of the games in recent memory I think nails this aspect perfectly is Trepang 2. That whole game has this fucking meaty, heavy crunch to its weapons that work perfectly with its more advanced yet weighty movement that makes for one of the best FPS experiences I've had this year. Reaver is a whole lot more advanced and mechanically demanding compared to Trepang 2 in my opinion, but it's not too overwhelming and doesn't make me stress the hell out all the time. And I think that's a testament to how well the mechanical tech has been implemented into this game. Reaver's movement might look floaty and slow sometimes, but I assure you that's not the case, especially with turbo mode on. You have total aerial control, which makes fighting in the air a breeze. Quick switching weapons also feels amazing. Slamming down to the ground and launching fodder into the air to hit them with a rocket feels great. The speed at which you move around works so well with your ability to dash and launch yourself off walls. Everything about Reaver's movement just feels so natural to perform, and I'm glad I don't have to read a 20-page wiki to figure out all the more advanced stuff. Now, there's heaps of hidden tech you can scour the Discord server for, but at its basic level, you have a triple dash, an infinite slide, double jump, ground slam, you can infinitely jump off of walls, and all of the weapons have some form of mobility option like a grapple hook. The dual machine guns propel you backwards and can be used to stay in the air, and your enrage ability with your shotguns offer some crazy kickback, and as normal, I don't like to spoil things in my reviews, so I'm going to leave the other weapons' movement abilities for you to discover. But there is one weapon I would like to talk about that made me almost instantly fall in love with this game, and that would be the revolver you begin with, primarily the blue variant. Weapons having an alternate fire is pretty much a standard feature in boomer shooters these days, and each weapon in Reaver has one, but the alternate fire of the blue revolver has to be one of the coolest mechanics to a gun I've ever seen. If being able to ricochet your bullets to multiple enemies' heads at once doesn't make you want to play this game, then I don't know what will. I love using simple geometry to angle my shot just right and seeing the heads explode one by one. And this mechanic isn't just a flashy gimmick either. I mean, I wouldn't care if it was because it's fun as hell to execute, but I found myself doing it probably more often than I should during combat. Speaking of fun, Reaver shares the addition of infinite ammo just like ULTRAKILL, which I personally love because it helps enable that sandbox nature that becomes so enjoyable. I know there are some people out there that hate this mechanic and need to be told how to play a game instead of creating the fun themselves, but I personally love it. It helps with that player freedom and player expression I enjoy so much. All of the weapons and abilities are listed below the weapon for your convenience, but it's up to you to get the creative juices flowing and figure out all the incredibly fun combos between weapons in order to output the most damage or just to be flashy as hell. If I could critique one thing about Reaver, it would be the enemy variety and AI. I don't find it particularly difficult to fight against most of them, although there are some rooms that get quite difficult. Most of the enemies tend to sit still and fire projectiles at you. There are fodder that put pressure on you, dudes that jump around, dudes that teleport onto you, dudes that stop you from healing, etc, etc. But with how fast you can move and with how much damage you can put out, I feel like Reaver could do with more enemies on your screen at a time and make some of them faster. Or maybe add more environmental traps and surfaces to keep the pressure on you. I honestly don't know. I just feel like this game could go that little bit further and up the speed and pressure a little bit. It's a bit hard to take a deep dive into Reaver without spoiling everything, so I'm gonna have to stop myself there and, I don't know, go watch Dumpster Man or something for that. Reaver is an incredible game that can only get better from here, and I can't wait for some of the community members to completely break this game into pieces and figure out all of its cool tech. With an incredible soundtrack, environments that react to the OST, engaging combat and tech, Reaver is well worth your time and money. Please don't write this game off.